to Stanford in just the second meeting all time between these two programs. Met back in 1979. It was a victory for Boston College in a neutral site contest from Providence, Rhode Island. A little different in this day and age of the ACC, and the Eagles, who have won 2 straight, coach, they need to continue to stack wins to qualify for the ACC tournament. The conference is only taking 15 of the top 18 teams.
Well, and that puts a premium on these games, so you're right. Talk to the coaching staff today, and they know how important their players do about getting a win today to put them in position to make the playoffs.
Stanford has been terrific in this building as Maxime Raynaud draws an early foul. It's on Chad Benning, graduate transfer from St. Bonaventure, and ball out of bounds. Not in the act of shooting.
Well, Maxime's pleading his case there. Look, I don't pass the ball when I get that close, but he's not going to get that call. But I thought he was kind of gathering and going up, but nonetheless, it's out of bounds under.
Boston College, they were excellent on this end last week as Raynaud misses the step back jump shot. Donovan Young grabs a second effort. BC allowed a combined 90 points in 2 wins last week. That included holding Virginia Tech to 36, but they didn't face a big with the bag that Maxime Raynaud has.
No, just look at his ability to use either hand. He's arguably better with his left hand, Chris, than he is with his right, as he just demonstrated with a nice jump hook over his right shoulder.
A lot of continuity with this starting 5. Boston College pretty healthy entering this second to last week of the regular season. Post touch for Venning, and it's taken away by Ryan Agarwal. An early steal for Stanford.
That's Jalen Blake's. That's all Jalen. Put his hands all over the basketball.
Oziyah Sellers has it slapped away underneath the free throw line.
Now keep your eyes on Boston College. They're pretty scrappy defensively as well.
Blake's. It bounces off, and it's taken by Roger McFarland. Stanford victorious here over the weekend against Cal. Beat their rivals by 5 points to secure the season sweep against the Golden Bears. And another early takeaway for the Cardinal.
Yeah, good defense. Didn't allow the post-up to take place.
Raynaud feeds it, and Sellers couldn't finish.
Well, he tried to dunk it, Chris. Had the layup, said, nope, I'm going to dunk it, and paid the price. Had a shot block.
That's hand for 3, and he puts it in.
And he's letting the Cardinal bench know he's in the house tonight. A little bit of barking going on early.
23 points per game over his last 7, leading Boston College at more than 16.5 points per game this year. Eagles shoot the 3-ball well, but they don't take many out there. Maxime Raynaud, first 4 for Stanford tonight.
And again, Chris goes to his left hand over his right shoulder. If you don't know that in your scouting report, you're not paying attention. That's what he does. He's very good with that left hand.
Raynaud has posted at least 20 points 15 times this year. Dion Brown out of the shot fake free throw line. Missed it wide to the right, and Raynaud vacuums it in.
They're making a concerted effort to go inside to Maxime Raynaud early and see if they can play through the big fella.
Agarwal pulls from deep. Comes up short. Blake's had his hands on it. Here comes Dion Brown in BC. Count it! And 1 for Dion Brown, who took it coast to coast for the bucket.
That was a great fast break, Chris. That was a 2-on-1. Both players got lane line or wider, and you can see it. I mean, that's textbook. You get the ball in transition, and now you see his teammate gets wide. Now one player has got to make a decision to guard 2 when he goes up and challenges, but too late. He gets the basket and a chance for a 3-point play.
Dion Brown, who grew up in Massachusetts, called Boston College his dream school, was a 19-point per game scorer at UMBC last season. He's only scored in double figures 5 times this year, Coach, but talk to Earl Grant, he feels like he's getting closer and closer to the first-team all-conference guard he was a season ago.
He was a phenomenal player, and he'll get there. He's a competitor.
Raynaud picked up by Venning and whistled for traveling.
Yeah, well, you can see the difference. Maxime Raynaud's, kind of in that short corner. Not a lot of room. You got the baseline. You got a couple defenders to the middle. Just didn't gather himself and traveled, but they're going to. He's had a post touch every possession so far.
There's Donald Hand Jr., and he touched it last. Oziyah Sellers had him blanketed defensively and forces Boston College into a third giveaway here early.
How with these two teams defensively, Chris? They're getting their hands on the ball every possession. Nothing's easy. You better be solid with the basketball because there's a man and a half to the ball really on every possession.
Benny Gieler, first sub off the bench for Stanford. Raynaud for three, and he knocks it down.
Yeah, Benny Gieler knows his teammates. You know, you pick and pop, and you help out on the guard. He'll knock it back to Maxime, and he'll just drain shots for the three-point line.
All 7 Stanford points belong to the senior from France. Benning kicks it out, but threw it into the backcourt. And Boston College, a 4th turnover.
Well, good defensive intensity from Stanford. You know, they have capabilities to be a good team defensively, and they know it's important to their start because they're facing a team in Boston College that really gets after you defensively. But I like the defensive pressure in both teams so far this game.
Earl Grant really felt like everything came together for this team in a couple of double-figure wins at home last week, hoping they can travel out here to the West Coast. It's Stanford tonight, Cal on Saturday for these Eagles as Sellers misfires from the corner. This is Stanford's penultimate regular season home game. SMU will visit Saturday. Benning misses, gets it back, and loses the handle. A pesky start defensively for the Cardinal on their home floor. Oziyah Sellers, transfer from USC, hangs and misses, but will have the first free throws of the night.
Yeah, you like 3-point 7-footers?
Most improved player last season in the conversation for ACC Player of the Year, and always fun to do it in front of the loved ones who traveled a long way here to the farm for a couple of games this week.
Big fans, and truth be told, Mom's kind of the tough one. I said, where do you get the toughness? He said, oh, Mom's on me. She's pretty tough. Dad's, you know, kind of reasons with me, and Mom's the one that kind of, you know, runs a tough household there and gets after him. But I can relate. The same thing happened growing up.
Oziyah Sellers, the first Cardinal not named Maxime Raynaud to hit the point column tonight. Chisom Okpara, a transfer from Harvard, is checked in off the bench for Stanford. Dion Brown almost wrapped it in. Hastings taps it skyward, but Okpara recovers the loose ball.
Nice drive by Brown, but just a little better defense. Good recovery. Thought Brown had an angle to the basket.
Jaden Hastings, the redshirt frosh from Orlando, Florida, off the bench for Boston College, replacing Chad Benning, the starting big fella. And he has the daunting task of trying to handle Maxime Raynaud on this end. Raynaud out of the shot fake, pitches to the corner. Sellers splashes the three.
How about your 7-footer leading the charge with the wraparound behind the back pass for the three? Does it all, doesn't he?
If he's not scoring, he's facilitating and grabbing rebounds. And he has very much played himself into a first-round pick conversation this summer. That's how good of a year he's had. Has popped on a ton of NBA draft radars. Donald Hand Jr. finds McFarland in rhythm, and he missed everything. Roger McFarland has really struggled. Now 15 of 60, below 25% from distance this year.
Well, give Stanford credit. I mean, here you can see Raynaud with the behind the back on the money. I mean, just knows where he's going. He gets the defender to suck in, and then he's as excited about the assist as he is scoring. That's why you love Maxime Raynaud. But you know, if you're Boston College now, you got to try to knock him off his game. Just try to get it out of his hands and change the defense up a little bit. And that's what Coach Grant said he wants to do. And they've been a great defensive team this year, so he'll have some tricks up his sleeve for Maxime Raynaud.
Offensive foul as Stanford gives it back, and it's on Raynaud for a moving screen.
Yeah, got to have your feet set, and referees all over it. Now, get a chance to give Maxime Raynaud a well-deserved blow in here.
Kyle Smith has already clinched a winning season here in his first campaign on the farm. Stanford's first winning season since the 2021 abbreviated campaign. They've been excellent here at home. 14-2 in Maples. That's deflected out.
Now, they've put a really nice win streak together, but you mentioned Cal Smith, who has been a great coach and all the stops along the way. Coached at Columbia in the Ivy League, did a stellar job there. USF, San Francisco as well. Started his career, was at St. Mary's with Randy Bennett. Just Air Force, he's been everywhere, and he's had a lot of success.
Josh Beadle going baseline. Brown off the glass. It bounces through.
That's a great look from Brown. I think Deion Brown's got great balance. He's a threat. You've got to get out in three-point line because he can knock it down, but he's so quick with his first step to go around you and then avoid fouling or charging.
One of two Massachusetts-born players on the roster. And a reach-in foul on Elijah Strong on this end.
Well, you see Boston College, Chris, they're going to play aggressively. They're not going to give you post position. You're going to have to make a quick move in there. If you get the ball and put it down too many times, they'll dig the ball out. So you've got to make a quick move, and you've got to really be strong with the ball.
Year 4 for Earl Grant at Boston College. 20 wins and a second-round trip to the NIT last season. The pocket pass to Agarwal. One more to Kamen for 2.
Now, good look for Stanford, but you mentioned Earl Grant. Really a solid year last year. NIT, 20 wins. I mean, getting it done in a very tough ACC.
And last touched by Okpara, who is insisting that Elijah Strong had touched it last. Remember, Pat Kelsey took over for Earl Grant after he left the College of Charleston for Boston College. And what a year Pat Kelsey's put together in his first season at Louisville.
Now, it's phenomenal. I mean, he's one of the better coaching jobs in the country.
The Eagles have only attempted 4 shots from the floor almost 8 minutes in. Beadle, extra pass. Brown lost the handle. It's another turnover, the 6th already.
Yeah, they a little bit too unselfish. They had chances to shoot it, try to make an extra pass and gave it up.
It's a week in California for Boston College. Got here late Monday night, and they'll stick around until Sunday after their Saturday night game in Berkeley. Okpara spinning, and the hook shot bounces in.
Chisom Okpara can get to the rim, Chris. He's been playing better basketball lately. I think he's really had a little bit of a low when the year started, but now he's getting out and finding ways to attack the basket.
Fred Payne, true freshman with a scoring prowess, has checked in for Boston College. Elijah Strong fades, fires, and missed it strong. Kamen grabs it for Stanford, and it went off the lower half of Sellers.
Now, that was not a picture. Talked about his former mentor, Gary Waters, was one of my former coaches and done a lot for him. But, you know, they built their success over defense. And, you know, if you want to start with building a program, you got to have a foundation, and defense wins, Chris. And I really believe that Earl's got the ability to set up a really sound defensive system. You can just say with the stats you just mentioned, that's getting it done.
Team that's lost some tough overtime games this year. Triple overtime against Syracuse, double overtime against Notre Dame. They took Carolina to overtime and lost to the Dean Dome earlier this year.
Well, and think about it, they lost 5 phenomenal players from the NIT team, so they're rebuilding, doing it all over, and they're still competitive. That's a credit to Earl and his staff.
Payne spots up, and it pops out. Fred Payne's first attempt, shoots almost 40% from deep. Someone Earl Grant calls the junkyard dog of this BC team. Foul away from the basketball on the Eagles.
You know, Earl Grant's a refreshing coach because he's a guy that's not afraid to learn, not afraid to spend time. He's taken some philosophies, he's tweaked them, he's made them better, made them his own. But he said today in practice, he's, look, I've been around too many guys not to be a decent coach and not to have picked up some things. And a lot of respect for what he's done.
Agarwal misfires from the baseline. Okpara on the offensive glass. Jalen Blakes buries the 3.
That's a tough shot. I mean, he was challenged, I thought, pretty hard on that 3, and he knocked it down. His three-point shooting has improved this year. He started out struggling from 3. Now he's knocking down shots regularly. It
has been a breakout campaign for the graduate transfer from Duke, who never averaged more than 2 points per game in his time with the Blue Devils. First points off the bench for the graduate from Clemson, Joshua Beadle.
That's a big-time move again with the offhand.
Appeared in 32 games on Clemson's Elite Eight squad last year. Okpara can't hit.
Yeah, heads-up play by Kamen.
But Gieler's pass elusive as he tried to get it to Blakes. Raynaud, Sellers, and Donovan Young check back in for Stanford.
Yeah, those plays will drive you crazy as a coach, Chris. You look at Kyle Smith. He just put his hands up in the air, shook his head like, how do you throw the ball away when your teammate's open 8 feet away from you, and just threw it over his head? And uncharacteristic. Benny Gieler doesn't throw many away. His assist to turnover for about 4-1. So, you know, a tough play for him.
Benning off the bounce. Donald Hand. Back to the big fella. Benning leans in on Raynaud and missed it short.
That was good defense by Maxime Raynaud, staying grounded, not leaving his feet.
Raynaud. That was partially blocked. Benning got a piece of it. He's top 100 in the country in block percentage. Hand steps into a 3. Missed it off the heel. It ricochets to Payne. And the short jump shot off the glass and in.
Well, that's going to, again, drive Kyle Smith and his staff crazy. You give up, you don't mind the block shot, but then you don't get back in transition, and then you give up an offensive rebound. That's a tough sequence if you're Stanford.
Fred Payne was an ESPN 4-star prospect out of high school. Maxime Raynaud rips the cords on his second first-half triple.
Well, he said, I'll make up for that block shot. Let me get one reload. And he knocked it down clean.
Raynaud has hit both attempts from out there. The first guy into double figures on either side. Now 50 made triples here in his final college season. Beadle goes baseline, threw it to Donovan Young.
Yeah, good anticipation by Stanford. They got right to the coffin corner. It's where you got to get to when there's penetration.
Raynaud hit on the way up, and that's the second foul on Chad Benning.
Well, he did a good job, Chris, exposing the ball a little bit and using his body to draw that foul. And that's, you know, you can see he's got position, but he, you know, goes into the paint, drop steps, and he gets a lead foot in and just kind of exposes his shoulder and his arms, and he's able to draw the foul. Very clever play by Maxime Raynaud.
Raynaud 78% on the season from the free throw line, but near 90% in ACC games. Hey, the number 2 Duke Blue Devils highlight our Saturday men's basketball triple header. NC State and Georgia Tech tip off the afternoon at 3 Eastern. Then SMU squares off against Stanford here on the farm, and we cap the night with Duke hosting Florida State. It'll be senior day for Stanford here Saturday afternoon.
Well, it's going to be special. You just saw the Raynauds again making that trip all the way from Paris, France, but they're here, and they're going to honor their son and all the seniors. Always a special day, Chris. And when I coached, those were very emotional days when you know you're going to lose your seniors and their families are there to kind of send them off.
Stanford has built this lead to 11 as Jalen Blake's caught with his hand in the cookie jar, reaching in on Chaz Kelly.
Well, interesting, Lau, you know, you say, well, Stanford's got a nice lead, but, you know, they've given up leads in the last couple games. They had a big lead against Cal and only had the game tied with a few to go. They had a 16-point lead. They've been in this gym, had double-digit leads. So if you're Kyle Smith, you know, you're concerned. You want to keep the defensive pressure up and not play giveaway basketball.
Kelly uses the Hastings screen. A clean look for Strong. Hastings on the offensive glass. Chaz Kelly for 3.
Well, again, you play good defense, or you think it's good defense, but when you don't give up, when you give up a second shot, you didn't play good defense. You got to close the door, and that second chance really hurt Stanford. I like that Maxime Raynaud's posting up with both feet in the paint, and he's doing it in a high-low situation. It's so much harder to guard him when you're feeding him from the high post. There's no help side.
These are second chance points for BC.
Yeah, let's watch Raynaud. He screens down, pins down. He posts with both hands, and if you front him, he's going to take the lob. If you play behind, it's going directly in. So I love Maxime Raynaud in the middle of the paint.
Now Hastings with Benning on the bench with those 2 fouls. And it's an offensive foul against Stanford.
Well, I don't think that'll please the Stanford staff, and now Maxime Raynaud's got a couple, so he might have to come out, and he is. Yep. They're going to take little chance for him to pick up a quick third because he's been playing so well. They're going to have to give him a break. He'll go to the bench. Yeah, take a look at it. Watch his lead shoulder. He pushes off not only with his shoulder and his forearm, and Greg Nixon, the veteran official, right on it.
8 minutes to play in the opening half as Kelly sneaks inside, and last touched by BC. Stanford will have it when we return. Cardinal have an 8-point opening half lead on their home floor, but Maxime Raynaud in some first half foul trouble.
Well, how about the mom, Vanessa? We talked about how tough she is, and you can see when Maxime Raynaud lines up to shoot the free throw, and she's, you know, she smiles, but now when he misses, like, what? Come on, man. She's on her son, but then when he, you know, a little tough love, right? But then when he makes the free throw, what does she do? She says, okay, now it's a little bit different reaction. Now she's going to blow him a kiss. Chris, I can relate. My mom did this. She was tough on me. My team was really struggling from the free throw line. I worked on it. We get to be third in the country. I said, Mom, we're third in the country. She goes, big deal. Really big deal. Because you guys never get to the line. So
that's what you call unconditional love?
Yeah, so I've had it both ways, and I can relate to the Raynauds. But, you know, I love it. A man's best friend is his mother. Don't forget.
Well, you won't see much of Maxime Raynaud the remainder of this first half, one would think. In foul trouble with a couple, as Dion Brown picks it off the hardwood. A takeaway for BC.
And you got to watch this segment of the game with Maxime Raynaud on the bench. They can lose some of their continuity both offensively and defensively.
Fred Payne with 4 points off the bench. He stops and starts. A quick trigger from Hand. Hastings had it for a moment. Cameron did poke it out.
Well, you can see that Boston College is not afraid now. They're trying to post up inside. They want to take advantage of Raynaud being on the bench with 2. So they're not just going to settle. They're going to try to get some inside looks and post-ups.
Aiden Cameron in that 5 spot for Stanford. Saw 17 minutes over the weekend here against the Cal Bears.
He's capable defensively. He's a hustler. He's pretty long, can challenge shots.
Kelly picked up by Cameron. Takes him into the paint, and Cameron creates the takeaway for Stanford. Blakes gives it right back.
Yeah, again, uncharacteristic of Jalen Blakes to get those successive turnovers. Stanford playing a little bit of giveaway right now.
Earl Grant, BC's 4th-year head coach, has a saying, gritty, not pretty. That kind of summarizes the first half it's been between the Eagles and Cardinal. And the possession arrow keeps it with Boston College with 11 on the timer.
Well, now you got a short clock. Good hustle. Both teams scrapping on the floor. If you're Stanford, you're getting your hands on a lot of balls. And you're going to have to continue to play aggressively, Chris, because they're playing with their man, their big fella, out. So they're at a deficit now.
Down to 5 to shoot. Kelly whips it. And Payne misfires. Stinson off the bench has his first rebound.
Yeah, good possession by Stanford. They closed the door on a short clock and then rebounded.
Okpara backs in Donald Hand Jr. And the patience for 2.
Now, he did that when he was playing at Harvard. I mean, he made a living in there for Tommy Amaker, and when he does that, Chris, he's a load. I mean, that's what they need with Raynaud out of the game. You need another post threat, and he is. He can get there.
A 16.5 point per game score at Harvard last season. Brown cradles it through the contact. No basket. Offensive foul as he runs over Jalen Blakes.
Chris, Jalen Blakes has done that all year. He's given up his body and drawn the charge. Watch again on the offensive end, the drive to the basket and Jalen Blakes, and then you can watch Chisom Okpara, who gets in the rim, as you mentioned, great footwork, freezes his defender, just goes up strong. He's so strong with the ball, but set up by great pivoting inside the paint.
Oziyah Sellers walled off mid-post and floats it in.
He's been quiet, but when he can, Chris, he can put numbers on the board. He's a capable scorer. He's had big games this year. Stanford trying to dig in defensively.
Cardinal have ballooned this lead to a dozen. Beetle fires. Sellers clears. Boston College 2 for 8 from the outside in this first half. Okpara steps back. Yes, sir!
He's feeling it now, too, and boy, has he improved his three-point percentage. Really struggled when the year started. Now he is knocking down shots. Cardinals on fire.
7 straight for Stanford, and 7 off the bench for Okpara. That was deflected into the backcourt. Payne recovers, and Hastings the moving screen.
Well, I really like Stinson what he did. He sold that. He took contact and sold that last play. But the last 3 here, you can see Chisom Okpara. What a great left-hand, hook pass to Chisom Okpara, who just spots it and nails it. Great look by Jalen Blakes to his teammate. Benny Giller back in the lineup now, Chris.
45% from the outside. Doesn't take a ton of them.
No, but he struggled when the year started, but he sure locked down and put his percentages way up.
Right now, Stanford doubling up Boston College, and Okpara whistled for an offensive foul away from the ball.
Yeah, and you don't have to do that. He's a big enough guy. You don't have to push off and clear off to get position. You either are going to post up and get fronted, or your defender's going to play behind. So you don't have to push way out on the floor. And now you look at Stanford and their bench. They've got to make some decisions. They don't want to see another player going to the bench in foul trouble.
The officials appear to be
they're going to look at
stopping play to take a second look at this.
Yeah, I think the question is, was there any contact?
Previous foul is under review.
Potential contact to the face.
Marcus Pettigrew just came over and told us, Chris, I obviously, if there is contact, incidental or not, to the face, they'll call that as an excessive and flagrant foul. So that would be a tough break to get.
You thought maybe when Maxime Raynaud went to the bench with the 2 fouls that Boston College would find some more scoring opportunities. Eagles haven't scored in almost 4 minutes. And
no,
there's the potential contact to the face. It was
early, and there was contact to the face. So again, the officials aren't supposed to decide if you meant to do it or not. Either you made contact to the face or you don't. A lot of people don't understand the rule or the intent of the rule. You don't have to it doesn't have to be intent. It's if you put contact in the head or face area, you're supposed to call it. So we'll see what happens. See how the officials look at it. Here, watch the hand, Chris. You can see. There it is right here, the arm, elbow to the neck and head. And so officials are going to have to determine, is this excessive? Stanford's built a nice lead. You don't want the momentum to change. And those kinds of plays, they change the momentum before halftime. So huge call.
Common foul.
Yeah.
It's common foul.
All right, well, Chisom Okpara just breathed a fresh breath of relief there. But I think it's a learning experience, too, that you don't need to clear off when you post. You post with your lower body, Chris, not your upper body.
I think if you told Earl Grant before the game that there'd be a combined 45 points scored this first half, he'd feel like his team would be in better position than they are right now.
Yeah, good point. And that's what they've done, though. They just haven't given up a lot of points. They're stingy.
A combined 18 turnovers between these teams. Benning's back in the game with 2 fouls. Strong grabs the miss. And blocked by Stinson underneath.
Yeah, good block. That's a really good look for a second effort. Looked like it was going to be a layup, obviously. And I love this. Stinson went out and got a piece of the ball.
And a tough start for Benning, who's scoreless with 4 giveaways. An accomplished big man who checked into the night 3 points shy of 1,400 for his career. Hand fades, fires. Been a tough first half for him, too.
Yeah, well, that's good defense by Benny Giller, and his defense has improved. He's really stepped up and I thought stayed grounded and did a good job of challenging on that last possession.
Hand has been held to just 3 points on 1 field goal this first half. Okpara drives it. There's Sellers to the baseline. And no attempt. And a foul on the floor before the shot.
Looks like there's a clock issue, Chris, that the clock might have stopped.
An appropriate wrinkle in what's been a pretty clunky first half here on the farm.
Well, there's been a lot of missed opportunities with both teams, but you know, again, the defensive pressure I've been impressed with. These teams are guarding and they're being very active defensively. And yeah, the clock definitely stops, and the officials doing a good job of nipping it in the bud. So we'll see.
This is where you have to whip out your stopwatch and kind of see where things are.
Those are the old CYO games. CYO, BBYO, whatever it was. You know, it was the clock. You just had a manual clock there. But, you know, there's enough.
How things would line up. Duke, the #1 overall seed, trailed by Louisville, Clemson, and Wake Forest getting the double buys. Stanford in pretty good position here in their first season in the conference with the 7th seed at the moment.
No, that looks good, but those top seeds they're going to be tough for anybody.
Late in the clock, all of a sudden, Okpara steps back and can't hit this one. Donald Hand Jr. runs the show for Boston College. In need of some sort of offensive continuity here before the break.
Yeah, he's been quiet and he's capable. He can put up big numbers.
Elijah Strong picked up by Stinson, muscles it up there and earns a couple of free throws for BC.
Well, that was good defense until he reached in, Chris, and all he had to do was go straight up. You know, it's all it is on defense is discipline. You've got to stay grounded. You've got to challenge up, not out. Your arms are out, you're going to draw foul. And believe me, coaches work on this religiously every day. I mean, players just sometimes get a little amnesia, get a little caught with their hands in the cookie jar, as they say. But I think,
Hey, our final Thursday night women's basketball doubleheader of the regular season. It's Clemson and 25th ranked Louisville tipping off the night at 6 Eastern. Then 3rd ranked Notre Dame hosts number 24 Florida State and Tania Latson in South Bend.
Well, Kyle Smith and his staff have decided to trust Maxime Raynaud and putting him back in the game with, you know, under the TV timeout, 3 to go, and just say, hey, you got to play without picking up a third. We don't want you playing with a deficit in the second half. So keep your eyes on Maxime Raynaud, see if Boston College goes at him a little bit.
Chad Benning, starting big man for Boston College, back on the floor with 2 fouls as well. Tried to skip that one to Raynaud. Tapped back to Sellers. Shot clock into single figures. Benny Geeler pulls it from deep. And up over the backboard, out of bounds.
Yeah, never gotten their rhythm on that possession at all. Credit to Boston College. They're still defending, Chris. They're struggling offensively, but they're staying in this game defensively, making it, you know, a little tougher for Stanford.
Stanford shooting 55% this first half, but uncharacteristically, they've turned it over 8 times.
And that's what Boston College wants you to do.
Cardinal have dropped into a zone defensively.
Very good, Chris. I love it.
Payne, elbow, book it.
Well, you recognize the zone, but I don't think Stanford did. So they've got to step up a little bit, and you know, they just, their Boston College recognized it, I should say.
It's interesting. Stanford having Kamen and Raynaud share the floor at the same time here down the stretch of the first half. Agarwal drives. Raynaud on the offensive glass has the stick back.
Yeah, very patient by Maxime Raynaud. He waited for the defenders to clear, go up in the air, and scored it. Nice job. Now they're back in the zone again. It's a 2-3 matchup. Chris, they'll put 1 on the ball, try not to waste 2 on the ball. Guard the man in their area. You can see them dropping to the level of the ball, 1 on the ball.
7 second chance points for Stanford through the first 18 minutes and change. Hand gets to his mid-range spot, off target.
Nice challenge when Maxime really came all the way out to the paint to challenge Donald Hand. That's good defense.
Hand, the reigning ACC Player of the Week. First Eagle to win it 3 times in a season since Jared Dudley, as Raynaud splashes in his 3rd tray.
And he makes it look easy. That's what Maxime Raynaud will do, Chris. If you give him some room on the perimeter, he will not hesitate. It's going up.
Another slingshot make. There's Blakes on the attack, and he drops the hammer. Timeout, BC, as Stanford.
Well, the life of a coach, Chris, what do you do when your players got two? Do you put them back in? Well, Kyle Smith said, yeah, we're going to put him back in. And as soon as Maxime Raynaud goes back in, he immediately, promptly puts the ball in the basket from short range. And he says, you know what? You're not going to guard me from three. I'm going to knock that down. And then Jalen Blakes does what he does. Highway robbery, gets out in the break. Maxime Raynaud, great job while he was in to turn his team. And now he goes and sits the final minute and a half, so he will not pick up a third foul.
7 straight for the Cardinal to build this lead to 18 as Payne can't hit from the outside and Kamen claims it.
That's a good job. Again, Stanford staying with that zone. Smart play. Just see if they can not get beat inside with Maxime Raynaud out on the bench.
A 2-for-1 opportunity for the Cardinal if they hurry. Kamen faces up on Benning. That 2-for-1 opportunity has now gone by the wayside. Shot clock into single digits. Agarwal trying to create. Backing in Payne, spins left. Almost kissed it home off the window, and Boston College can now hold for the final take of the opening 20.
And they will. They'll afford to give the ball back to Stanford. Stanford in the zone, looking for a man in their area.
Hand, deep three, in and out. And a microcosm of the opening 20 as BC finishes this first half just 7 of 27 from the field and down 18 out west at Stanford. Stanford north of 50%, Boston College south of 30%. How do the Eagles find some continuity on offense these final 20 minutes?
They've got to try to get to the basket, and if they can, maybe get to the foul line. But Jalen Blake is saying, not so fast. You got to guard us first. So it starts with defense, and that's what Earl Grant's team's got to do. They've got to find ways to slow down Stanford, stop them a little bit.
Stanford grows its lead to 20 with the Blake's bucket out of the break. Benning the spin, couldn't wrap it in. Brown tried to tap it back. It's taken by Raynaud.
Again, that's, just rushing themselves a little bit. Stanford's defense has been good. You can say, well, Boston College has not shot it well, but Stanford's defense has had a lot to do with it, Chris. They've been really aggressive defensively.
Oziyah Sellers pulls up. Raynaud taps it, and last touched by Kelly.
Well, he's lucky he's 7'1" because he went over the top for sure, but he was able to keep that ball alive and obviously goes off an eagle. Stanford now trying to employ Jalen Blake's off the dribble. Great look inside. My goodness, Ryan Agarwal. How about that?
It 0 for 4 in the first half, but Jalen Blake's set him up for his first points tonight.
Now Stanford's now going to go back to a little bit of a drop zone. See if they can avoid getting Maxime Raynaud in foul trouble. I like the call. And why not? Your opponent's shooting 25%. Good time to zone.
McFarland leans in, and the runner falls.
Well, I like that ability from Boston College not to settle from the perimeter, but try to split the seam and score inside. They did.
Roger McFarland in his first season at BC, transfer from southeastern Louisiana. As Sellers is fouled on the way up. A crafty move to get downhill, and Oziyah Sellers, one of 3 undergrad transfers that Kyle Smith brought in over his first offseason here on the farm. Will take free throws for the Cardinal.
He's a guy that gives him, that third scorer, second or third scorer. He's had big games for Stanford this year when they've had a couple of guys like Raynaud in foul trouble. Jalen Blakes has been out or, injured. It's been Oziyah Sellers that's come up, and he's had some big games. So he's capable. He's a very unselfish player. Kyle Smith and his staff would like to see him get a little bit more selfish.
Grew up in this region in Hayward, spent the last 2 years at USC, and really looking forward to going toe-to-toe with his former head coach Andy Enfield Saturday when SMU visits.
That's going to be an interesting matchup. Always is when you face your former team and your former coach. Yeah, there's the zone. Trying to match up out of the zone.
McFarland, clean look, and a knockdown from deep.
Well, they didn't get, they had 2 on the ball there, Chris, and in the matchup zone, you can't waste 2 on the ball because nobody was, it's too long of a run for the outside wing to come out and guard.
All 5 BC points to start the second half, courtesy of Roger McFarland. And now a takeaway for Donald Hand Jr. And attacks Agarwal, stumbling down the lane. And finally a whistle for a tie-up, keeping the possession with Boston College. What have you seen Stanford do defensively to frustrate Donald Hand Jr., who's just 1 for 6 from the field?
Well, they're on him. You know, every time he puts it down, you got another defender you can see there. They're going to send a second defender there. That's how much they respect Donald Hand. He'll beat you one-on-one, so you've got to get a defender there and get him early. On defense, Chris, you can be early. Offense, you can be a step slow and late. On defense, you can never be late. You better be early, and Stanford's done a good job of getting there for early help.
Venning down the baseline. Brown tried to throw it down and missed the flush.
Yeah, he had a wide open look. Nobody there and just missed it.
Well, the struggle has been real on that end for BC. Agarwal scores inside off another dime from Jalen Blakes, who takes it away. Almost flipped it in, and a late whistle for a foul.
Well, how about the turn of events there? You got Agarwal with the drive. Jalen Blake's playing Houdini out here on the other end, just stepping in and getting a steal out of nowhere. I mean, Stanford's been really aggressive, really astute defensively. They've been alert, and this is one of their better defensive efforts, Chris. I've seen them most of this year, and this is a game where they're just on top of things defensively. They're talking, they're communicating, and they're quick to the ball. They are really giving Boston College some fits defensively.
Blake has a younger sister, Michaela, who's a freshman at Vanderbilt, might be the best freshman in the country on the women's side.
Now, she's tough. I mean, if you haven't seen her, you should. And you can see, even out of the zone, they're extending out here. They're just going to get out on the floor.
As Kelly terminates his dribble, here's Dion Brown along the end line, and a foul called before the attempt.
Well, and that's what you have to do, Chris, against an aggressive defense. You're playing against a team that's aggressive. If you don't attack them off the dribble, you're playing right in their hands. And I think Boston College, you're going to see them putting the ball down and trying to get to the rim a little more. Only problem is you got Maxime Raynaud there that's going to adjust or alter your shots.
Venning has a mismatch as he backs in Donovan Young and scores with a right-hand hook.
Well, that was smart. He went away from Raynaud. Raynaud was lurking in the middle, but he went back to the baseline.
First points of the night for Chad Venning as Kelly dives on the sideline and could not stay in bounds.
Now, Earl Grant was trying to get a timeout if he could to save the possession. Heads-up play by the coach, but they just couldn't get the possession back, and feet were out of bounds. I think the officials want to make sure, but you can see the aggression now from Boston College. They're picking up the pace a little bit. They're going to try to take Stanford out of it and see if they can get a couple more turnovers.
There's Donovan Young, freshman from Pasco, Washington. Raynaud backs in Venning. Perfect. He is automatic with that right-hand push shot.
Well, I call that his weaker hand, even though it's his natural hand, but he's showing the ability, either hand, scoring it over his shoulder.
As Kelly feeds Venning, who goes up and under plus the foul. 2+1 for Chad Venning.
And that's what they want to get out of Chad Venning. If he can get to the basket, that helps. But it's Maxime Raynaud. How about the job he's doing for the Cardinal? He's tough. He's tenacious. Nope.
It's all Jalen Blake's. His fingerprints all over this start to the second half.
Watch the job he does by just dropping off passes. He's got the ability. He plays with his head up. Love his ability to get by his defender, and he just knows his teammates, Chris. He's just dropped 2 dimes to his teammate. And how about the steal and the foul that he drew? I mean, that's a 6-point turnaround by Jalen Blake. And look at what he's done from last year to this year. Averaged 3 points a year at Duke. Now we're averaging 14, better than 2-to-1 assist to turnover. He is definitely one of the more improved players in the country.
Someone, Kyle Smith, has called a pleasant surprise. He didn't think he'd be averaging almost 14 points per game, but
he's controlled the tempo almost every game that they've played and they've won. He's been that important.
It's Raynaud feeding Sellers for 2.
How about your point forward up top? Your point center, again with the dime from the top. He can pass, Chris. Not only can he score it, block shots, and rebound. You know he can do those things, but he's an excellent passer.
Sellers has 11 and the double figures for a 23rd time this year. Shot clock in a single digits for BC. Donald Hand Jr. Off the heel, claimed by Raynaud inside.
Yeah, they've done a great job on Hands. He just hasn't had many good looks, Chris.
Yeah,
that's a credit to
7
Stanford's
from
defense.
the field now.
Yep.
Okpara could not catch the entry pass cleanly. It ricochets out to Sellers. Baseline 2. Sellers missed it. Blake soars in for the second effort. And Sellers sticks the 3.
Yeah, that's got to be an assist, Chris. But how about the second effort by Stanford? I'll tell you, that's a sequence that just has epitomized how Stanford has played. Multiple efforts. Look at what's happening on this possession. There's a shot by Sellers, the miss. That's Jalen Blake's keeping it alive. I mean, giving up his body and getting Sellers a second look and a reload. I mean, Jalen Blake's is doing it all. He's a physical player. He's tough. He's resilient. He'll play through injuries. He's getting a much-deserved rest on the bench, and he's, you know, playing with a little bit of an injury.
Stanford's plus 26 in Jalen Blake's 21 minutes tonight.
Yeah, I think you're pretty wise to put him on the floor, Chris. I think you're gonna get some dividends, but he's been that kind of player for Stanford all year long. He's dominated tempo in their big wins this year. If you look at his minutes, those plus minutes you're just talking about, he's been on the plus side every game.
Stanford has 2 quad 1 wins. Jalen Blake has delivered game-winning jump shots in the final seconds of both of them.
Yeah, big time.
At Santa Clara and at North Carolina earlier in conference play.
Yeah, people forget about that one. That's huge.
A post touch for Venning. And he scores over the top of Maxime Raynaud.
Oh, that's a tough shot. Raynaud just stood his ground, but good job offensively by getting the ball up and over.
All 6 of Chad Benning's points after halftime. A slingshot 3, and Raynaud rattles it in.
I love Geeler and Raynaud. They've got that 2-man game going. Right away, Benny Geeler knew that there was a help off the screen. He delivered that pass right back into Maxime Raynaud for the 3.
16th time Maxime Raynaud has passed 20 points in a game this year. And a reach-in foul on Benny Geeler up top.
You see Maxime Raynaud talking to his point guard. I think they're just trying to talk a little bit out there and see if they can take advantage of the coverage. But here's the 3. Here's the pass back and the knockdown 3. Raynaud on fire.
4 trays for Maxime Raynaud tonight. McFarland on target. His second tray.
No, he can do that, Chris. You know, they need more of that because he shoots a pretty good clip from there. He's a capable player, grad student from Southeast Louisiana. He can get it done.
15-point per game score in the Southland. A heat check for Raynaud.
Well, he earned that. You can't get too mad at him. He's feeling it.
Only Raynaud's 3rd miss from the field tonight. He's 8 for 11. McFarland turns the corner, sets up Payne. And Brown fouls Okpara.
Chisom Okpara gives you that second rebounder, the second player on the floor that's got some size and girth, some strength inside. He started out the season, but now he's playing a lot better basketball.
And the nation's top men's lacrosse team square off Saturday afternoon right here on ACC Network. Number 1 Notre Dame takes on number 2 Maryland. Coverage begins at 1 Eastern here on the ACC Network, also streaming live on the ESPN app. Doesn't get much bigger than 1 versus 2.
Now, that's going to be a matchup.
To say the least. Jalen Blake's. Hammond blocked on the second attempt and last touched by Stanford.
Stanford awfully aggressive on the glass there. Boston College very fortunate they came away with no collateral damage on that play. But Raynaud's getting a break, Chris, and he deserves it. He's put some numbers up. He's been everywhere on this floor, assisting, leading, rebounding, shot blocking, knocking down threes. He's been tough.
Luka Taves, a true freshman from Tokyo, Japan, getting his first run tonight for Boston College. Venning out-muscles Kamen for the bucket inside.
You see what Boston College does as soon as Raynaud goes out of the game. There's no there's no thought process about what they want to do. Immediately go in the paint and get a basket.
Well, Benning has found some comfortable spots in the low post this second half, up to 8 points out of the break. Okpara leaning in, staying patient, and scoring over the top of McFarland.
Now, he's shown the ability to avoid traveling and just keep his dribble, keep his pivot down and just get a good look for the basket. He's so strong, he doesn't hurry himself. He can get to the foul.
Benning turns the corner, tried to throw it down, and got hit on the way up.
Yeah, again, great strategy by Boston College. They see a mismatch, and they're taking advantage of it. Benning's just so good inside.
Been a veteran presence among a relatively young BC squad. Chad Benning now north of 1,400 career points. 2 years at Morgan State out of high school. The last 2 at St. Bonnie's.
Yeah, he had great look to St. Bonnie for Coach Schmidt. And, you know, he's a veteran. You can't say enough today about veterans. There's so many players get a chance to play that grad year, and they're taking advantage of it. But that's when you get a veteran player that does that, that gives your team a lift. It really does. You see that Boston College would like to pick up the pace here, see if they can hurry and force a couple of turnovers.
Okpara gets it. Another patient attempt. This time Benning comes over to deny the shot.
I thought great footwork again by Okpara, but just better defense. Nice job defensively.
173rd career block for Chad Benning, who missed the right-hand hammer, but draws another foul.
He's got a confidence going on. He's attacked the basket at will the last 3 possessions.
But tonight has again belonged to Stanford's Maxime Raynaud, who's got a game-high 21 points.
Yeah, and what does he do for an encore? Hard to say, but he just puts the ball in the basket, finds ways. You give him an inch, he will knock it down, and why not? Because Mom is in the stands, and she loves the action. Go ahead, Vanessa, celebrate. It's your son.
All Stanford on their home floor tonight out west in the ACC, 59-36. The Cardinal over Boston College. Glad you're with us. Chris Sylvester with Coach Ben Braun, our producer Gregory Pike, director Jimmy Lee Starling. Stanford 14-2 here at home, and they've been dominant again inside the friendly confines tonight.
And this is really, in my opinion, Chris, one of the better start now to this point games they've had. They've had very few lulls. And they've been doing it on both ends of the floor, not just offensively, which is obvious, but they've been playing really good defense against Boston College. They play like this, they're a tough team to beat.
Maxime Raynaud back on the floor for Stanford out of the timeout. Blakes couldn't finish that and lost his shoes. So Boston College has a 5-on-4. Luka Taves hits the 3.
Now they knew what to do. 5-on-4, they didn't rush themselves. They waited, and they found their open man. Great job by Boston College, BC.
Just his second made field goal in ACC play. Freshman from Tokyo, Japan, who finished high school in Boston. Blakes couldn't wrap it in.
He had a chance to go strong side board and decided to go across underneath.
And now Blake's whistled for the foul.
Yeah, Stanford's a little bit late now. You can see they're a step behind, and Boston College is starting to get their rhythm a little bit more. They're getting to the line. They're beating their defenders on cuts. The question is, do they have enough time to get back in? They're going to have to pick it up defensively, not just put points on the board, but they've got to find ways to stop Stanford.
Little 6-0 burst put together by BC. Elijah Strong, 5 to shoot. Into the double team and poked away. Here comes Okpara down the hatch, and he lays it in.
Great play by Chisom Okpara. He waited for the defender to clear, Chris. used his body, his strength to put 2 on the board. That's a big basket.
11 off the bench for the Harvard transfer. And Stanford balloons the lead back to 20. Venning comes up short.
Not the same. You're going up over Raynaud. Not quite the same defender. That's a little tougher chore.
Well, Venning's had a big half. All 11 of his points after the break, but much of that with Maxime Raynaud on the bench. Sellers. Okpara the second effort. Sellers tries it too and connects.
Yeah, he's been great at second effort baskets. He missed the first a couple of times only to get a chance to reload, and he's knocked down, I think, 3 of those in a row.
16 for Sellers. Taves, free throw line, book it.
Yeah, he's getting a chance to earn a little time here, Chris, the way he's knocking down those shots. Now, you're Stanford, you don't want to go into a deep freeze, but you don't want to be in a hurry either and let Boston College go on any kind of major run here.
Well, Taves has been a nice spark. Sellers comes up short on an open look from the corner pocket. BC up to 40% from the field, but trailed by 20.
Raynaud 1 rebound away, right, Chris, from a double-double, I think.
That would be his 21st of the
How
season.
about that? And he's probably going to get it. If he stays on the floor, it's hard to imagine him going the rest of the game without a rebound.
Agarwal from the outside bangs home the 3.
He does that. Ryan Agarwal felt it, did not hesitate. Love players that don't hesitate, Chris. He was confident. He put it up, and he was rewarded. He knocked it down.
His 33rd tray of the season. Stanford's 9th tonight. Venning back to work, falling away, and he kisses it in off the window.
Yeah, good aggression. You know, he took the ball to the basket, and I thought that was a really good aggressive play. He's been really tough this half.
13 now for Chad Venning to lead Boston College tonight. Raynaud, mid-range. Donald Hand Jr., his first points since the opening minute. And a timeout, Kyle Smith, as Boston College has trimmed the deficit to 18.
Stanford getting a chance now to build a lead. And why? Chisom Okpara. He's been tough inside, and he's tough on the boards. He's tough with the steal in the lane. Why not finish with some strength?
With 7:41 to play.
Yeah, great timeout by Kyle Smith. He's got to try to stem the tide here a little bit. Boston College is starting to get aggressive. If you're Stanford, you've got to handle pressure now. You're going to see some pressure.
Almost a 10-second call. Earl Grant was pleading for it. Raynaud wraparound. Gaylor. Second effort. Ryan Agarwal has it slapped out of his hands. Now falls on his wallet. And the possession arrow will have it with Stanford on the other side. Cardinal by 18, 7-11. Second half. Good, and Johnny Dawkins, who's now the head coach at UCF. All those guys would have liked to have a big that plays like Maxime Raynaud, who's now got 23.
Now incredible, and I've known most of those coaches when they're during their tenure here. Not only great coaches, but great leaders of young men. I can't say enough about those guys.
A soft touch for Elijah Strong. His first field goal tonight. Inside of 7 minutes here, 18-point lead for Stanford. And Boston College gets a takeaway. And Taves has it deflected out by the always active Jalen Blakes.
Yeah, you know, Stanford can't act surprised now with those turnovers that BC's going to be coming with the kitchen sink. They're going to come with everything they got. They're going to And they're going to use some fouls too. So you got to be strong with the basketball down the stretch. This game's not over by a long stretch. You got to put this team away if you want to win. BC's going to scrap. That's what they do.
3 regular season games remain for both Stanford and BC following this one. Strong leans in, and another one bounces home.
And they're finding ways to score. So if they can keep Stanford from getting baskets, they can turn this game around. But they haven't shown the ability to really get consecutive stops on Stanford so far.
As close as Boston College has been in this second half. Raynaud right over the top of Strong. It rolls off. And here comes Boston College. Payne, Euro step, uses the offhand. And tapped out to Elijah Strong for a second effort.
They're hustling. BC is really, really aggressive to the ball, Chris. They've done a good job down the stretch here.
Taves bounces to Hastings. They could never find the handle there. And a foul against Jalen Blakes.
I wouldn't be surprised. You might see Stanford go back to that zone, see if they can make Boston College knock some shots down from the perimeter, because they're giving up some inside scores.
No foul on Blakes there. There's actually a kickball called. The shot clock reset to 20 regardless. Hastings misses the dunk, and McFarland misses the follow.
Well, thankfully, Maxime Raynaud went up and got, I believe, another rebound, which if he did, he's now hit his double-figure mark.
His national leading 21st double-double of the year.
Yeah, that's saying something, Chris. And that was a huge rebound.
And that is a program record here at Stanford as the MVP chants break out.
They've had some awfully good post players here. I've coached against them, but Maxime Raynaud is among the best. I mean, that's just sets you apart, Chris, when you put up those numbers.
Blakes. It bounces off to Payne. The outlet pass to Elijah Strong. And he couldn't wrap it in, but gets fouled on the way up.
Yeah, and I think obviously Kyle Smith's not happy about that quick shot and then the foul.
Maxime Raynaud, who's got 23 points, 10 boards, couple of assists tonight, has become an NBA prospect here in his final college season. You've had the pleasure of coaching 24 guys that had gone on to play in the association. How do you think his game will translate?
Well, interestingly, I've got some former players that are scouts in the NBA, and they like his ability, you know, and his durability. And, you know, you always question, is a player A going to get better? Because you get drafted in the NBA on your potential. But if you look at Maxime Raynaud, he's gotten better every year. Look at his stats every year he's played. So if that's true, and you can project that he's going to continue to get it better, then he's an excellent prospect. Chris, he reminds me a lot, if you ask me about a player, of Ryan Anderson, that played for me at Cal, that was a 6'11" post guy, but he really, his strength was going out and knocking down threes. Maxime Raynaud can do those two things. So there's a place for him in the NBA. There's no doubt about that. And he's a great passer. I mean, he's got the whole package. What he doesn't do, I'm not sure. I've watched him play a ton, but he can defend. If you're a general manager, I don't know how you cannot put him in your conversation.
Hey, Saturday night we'll debut our documentary about the 91-92 Duke men's basketball team, the first back-to-back national champs since the UCLA dynasty years. Coach K, Christian Laettner, Grant Hill, Bobby Hurley, and so many more Blue Devils were interviewed for this amazing doc. The 1-hour special premieres at 9 Eastern, right here on the ACC network and the ESPN app.
I want to see that.
Appointment television.
I definitely want to see that. I knew those teams, knew the coaching staff. My goodness, that's special.
Strong corkscrews and finishes with a southpaw delivery.
Yeah, I really like the ability of, you know, when you look back at this game, if you're BC, you're going to see you've got the ability to get aggressive in the basket. They've done that really well second half.
Within 15 here, but the clock is a factor approaching 4 minutes. Raynaud on the elbow, skips it to Okpara. through the double team, and it was rather surprised how open that shot was underneath.
Well, he was waiting for defenders to go up and try to block a shot. Nobody bid. So he said, okay, you're not going to go up and block my shot. I'm going to score it. But he's done a great job with that all game long, Chris. He's been really patient inside.
Theon Brown feeds a freight train. Hastings throws it down.
You chart this half, the second half, Chris, and you'll see very few shots from the perimeter. Most of BC's scores have come point blank at the rim.
Only 6 trays and 18 attempts for Boston College tonight. Now they've got 26 paint points.
Now. They're showing their version of the zone. Now they're going back to man.
Okpara takes it to the cup for 2 more.
Chris, he plays like that. Stanford's a different basketball team. He's given them a dimension that really they haven't had in a while. He's been terrific tonight.
His 8th game into double figures this season. McFarland tees it and splashes in his second tray.
Now Benny Gieler's shaking his head like, what more do I need to do? I challenge up, I challenge out, and he still nailed it.
11 for McFarland. And a timeout BC inside of 3 minutes. Well, the Eagles have played much better this second half, but Stanford's still in control with 2:53 to play.
Didn't know that he could do this in this league. He's done it and then some.
Stanford has been a great surprise this year. Already 17 victories. On the verge of number 18 here as Raynaud's fouled by Hastings with 2:41 to play. Cooper Flagg only a half a point in the PPG column behind Maxime Raynaud. Ian Shefflin would have a ways to go rebounding the basketball. He'd need a couple, 25 rebound efforts to catch Maxime in that category?
That's going to be hard, Chris. As much as I think he's a good player, those are tough numbers. But Maxime Raynaud, he's put his prints all over this game.
Sellers fouled by Hastings off a nice dish from Okpara.
Well, I really like Stanford's ability to attack the basket by the cut. When you cut to the basket, your defender can't see ball and you. I mean, but watch the pass on the top. I mean, Chisom Okpara and Oziyah Sellers. I mean, here's the pass. I mean, that ball didn't stick in Chisom Okpara's hands very long at all. I mean, he caught it and got rid of it in one motion. I mean, that almost looked like a fumble, but it wasn't. That was a pass, Chris. And Chisom Okpara, he stepped his game up. I've been impressed with him. He's earned himself some playing time. I'd be hard-pressed to figure he's not going to be garnering some more minutes for the rest of this season.
Redshirt Frost Jaden Hastings picking up his 5th foul here. So Chad Benning checks back in.
You can see the confidence on Stanford's players. I mean, they were tested in the second half, but they didn't wilt. They could have, and they didn't. They just maintained the presence, and this has been a really good effort by the Cardinals.
Oziyah Sellers now with 18 points. And Taves throws it away. Sellers the steal. Couldn't scoop it in.
Nah, he rushed himself.
Stanford, a few weeks ago, they were in that bubble conversation, had a tough stretch where they had lost 4 of 6, sunk into the 80s of the net. You got SMU here coming on Saturday, an at-large hopeful team. Mustangs are in Berkeley tonight.
Yeah, big opportunity for Stanford. They're really, if this is the time you want to play your best basketball, and they're playing some of it right now.
The reverse nowhere close as Maxime Raynaud gets knocked down and in some pain, holding his face.
He got hit in the eye, Chris. That's never fun. I wouldn't be surprised to see Maxime Raynaud make his exit and not return in this game. We'll see. Yeah, Maxime Raynaud is going to take a break. Yeah, you can see, I just scraped him along his face. But Maxime Raynaud deserves a hand. Just what an effort by him this game. We mentioned his family being here. I mean, smile on his face. And, you know, we go to his shoot-arounds. We go to these practices. I've been to a ton of them. Guess who's the first guy at practice every day? Maxime Raynaud. And one of the last guys to leave. There's a reason why he's been successful.
Folks have to be pleased with the effort tonight. We talk about Boston College coming more than 3,000 for a couple games here in California this week. How about Maxime's folks? Almost 6,000 miles from back home in Paris, France.
Yeah, no, that's getting it done. But it's an exciting time of the year to see your son play. You do what you have to do to see your son play.
McFarland on a step back. And it almost bounced in, but it falls to Talis Toure, who's getting some late run here.
Now, you mentioned something that's kind of interesting, in my opinion, Chris. You say, you travel all this distance, and teams like Boston College, I don't care if it's west going east or east going west, you're gonna feel it. Your legs aren't going to be up under you right away, and it doesn't matter what time you get in. You got a time change. It's 3 hours. You're on a different schedule. So oftentimes the teams that make these trips, oftentimes play better in the second of your 2 games. So. Cal's going to have a little different Boston College. If Cal has to play the Boston College that played in the second half, Cal's going to have some problems. So that's going to happen. It's happened all year long. Earl Grant's, a veteran, been around the block.
Well, Boston College desperately trying to find its way into that top 15 to qualify for the ACC tournament.
Well, and they'd love to come out here and get a split. Doesn't matter if you get the front end or the back end. Earl Grant talked to us about that today. He said, we got to come out here and at least try to get a split. And so that's going to be their goal. But they can build on the second half. They put together some good numbers and some good efforts in the second half. They really have. And Stanford, as we mentioned, they've played one of their better games I've seen them play this year.
The Cardinal, as Toure picks up the moving screen call.
Well, a little bit of a, a little bit. Let's talk player of the game, huh?
Yeah, tonight's player of the game brought to you by Wendy's. Any guesses?
I'm going to go with the guy from France.
Okay.
His parents are here. You got to give it to him. His parents came too far not to see him get player of the game.
They displayed just about everything in his bag tonight. Been a tough night for Donald Hand Jr., the reigning ACC Player of the Week. Now, held to 6 points on 2 of 9 shooting, Coach.
Yeah, and he'll be better. Mark my words, he will be better against Cal. Cal's got to prepare for him because Stanford did a good job on him, and I think he'll bounce back from this game. Great players do. He's too good a player because he hasn't had many down games. So if you're Donald, if you're Hand, you're gonna come back. He's a competitor, and he'll do everything he can, Donald Hand Jr., to come back and help his team on Saturday. But tonight's been about Stanford.
Senior day for Stanford coming up Saturday afternoon. Another one we'll have for you here on the ACC network as SMU comes to town. It'll be the second meeting between the Mustangs and Cardinal. SMU beat Stanford by 24 points in Dallas last month.
Well, and that's a game you got a red mark on your calendar. You'd love the opportunity to get SMU again.
A lot of familiarity between Andy Enfield and Kyle Smith, having coached against one another in the Pac-12 at their previous stops. Agarwal's swat is an appropriate way for this game to end. Stanford dominant defensively, and the Cardinal roll the Eagles by 18 to improve to 15-2 inside Maples Pavilion.
Now you take this